at biogas business models. And first off, I just want to thank Josh and Travis for being here today. And also, if my internet cuts out, it said it was unstable earlier, so I'm cross my fingers that does not happen. But yeah, Aaron, if you want to go to the second slide quick. Oh, also, I'm sorry. I'm Cade Meier. Aaron is running the controls right now. And then we also have Adam and Morgan. So to start it off, I'd like to explain a little bit about biogas systems for anyone that's not aware. And usually they're just a system where you take organic decomposable waste and you put it in these digesters, sits for a while, kind of churns around a little bit. We'll get more into it later. But throughout our research, we found that it creates all these great products. And it's kind of funny because you would never think something that kind of comes from just complete waste, which is what it is, could, come out with heat, electricity, fuels for all different types of transportation, and then some other really good byproducts. So throughout our research and whole project, we interviewed Patrick Surface from the American Biogas Council, and he shed a lot on the benefits of biogas systems and some of the hoops that they have to jump through to try to kind of get these into the mainstream of renewable energy. And then also we looked at a case study, which was done by Brian Sievers. He's a farmer in Iowa who runs a combined heat and power system and also 2 anaerobic digesters. And so looking at his entire setup, we really gained a lot of information on, is this economically feasible for an operation like his own? And then we also looked at some other operations and wanted to come up with, is this a real solution environmentally, but also economically?
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to note here was that biogas produces the same product as the traditional natural gas systems. So it can be passed through the existing pipelines that we currently have. And the payback period is around 12 years for these systems. But we've seen recent reports where it's been as low as 3 to 7. But yeah, most of our research was modeled after Patrick Surface's findings. He's a member of the American Biogas Council, and we kind of followed his, after interviewing him and looking through his campaign to implement these new systems.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Sorry. The lag, I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. So I'm just going to start by explaining how biogas energy works. So biogas is an energy-rich gas produced by anaerobic decomposition of biomass, and it can be used to help substitute natural gas as a renewable resource. So looking at the inputs of the system, there's waste, which can be food, wastewater biosolids, manure from livestock, etc. In this project, we focused more on livestock, but still touched a lot on biogas systems overall. And then we have electricity to power the system and the bacteria to break down the waste. And heat is needed to keep this bacteria alive and at a sweet spot. And then for outputs, there are 2 main outputs, digested materials and biogas. And the digested materials could essentially be used as fertilizer, and the biogas can be used for energy. Next slide. Thanks. So all the waste products, this is explaining like the anaerobic digestion and how it works and everything in the process. So all of the products are homogenized and put in a storage unit that is kept at a heat between 100 and 122 degrees Fahrenheit for a few weeks, and it gets mixed throughout the entire 2 weeks to keep it flowing continuously. This is where the chemical reactions happen, and mostly methane and carbon dioxide are released. The sludge is what becomes the digested materials typically used as fertilizer. Okay, next slide. So this is a typical biogas plant. On the far left, the inlet, there is a mixing tank where the sludge is made homogeneous and then it is sent down to the digester area. This area is airtight so that the gas can be held in the top and collected. This example has a latrine linked to the system, which makes more sense on like small like farm scenarios where all of the biogas, like everything can just be stored in one place. So the latrine is connected in this situation. And then there's an outlet chamber for the digested material to go after it is processed and done. And then the bioslurry can be used as fertilizer and everything else.
So before getting into the economics of the system, we want to touch, environmentally, is this, a sustainable option? And after looking at all the research, we wholeheartedly do agree that it's environmentally beneficial. I'm looking at some of the pros compared to natural gas. They're very similar on a molecular level, but this is a renewable resource. So, we're getting it from waste, not, having to tap into the Earth's crust, to drill it out and frack and, all of the dirtiness of that. It reduces the air pollution because instead of releasing methane into the atmosphere, we're burning it, so you're burning it for energy. So that's one win. And then also methane is 25 times more potent of a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. So it's kind of a win-win situation by not letting that get into the atmosphere as well. And it really has some useful byproducts. Like Morgan talked on, you have this nutrient-rich fertilizer that, gets put right back out into the fields for crop production. And, it's a complete cycle. So, it really kind of takes care of itself. And then also one pro that honestly we kind of didn't think of at first, but especially in this country, we run into a lot of issues of landfills and we're running out of space to store our waste. So this can reduce the volume of landfills and, really kind of help us on that side of things as well. Some of the cons is that the technology is a little out of date in loan efficiency. So with, government funding and stuff like that, you will get better engineering resources to try to update these systems. And also new construction is quite expensive. And that is why it does take, sometimes 10 to 15 years for it to pay back, but ultimately it does pay for itself. And then also one thing it does require constant feedstock because these systems can run up to 95 to 100% of the day. But it does require that constant feedstock. But like I said, in a country where, we produce a lot of waste, we don't really see this being an issue. Next slide, please. So just taking a look at the Us Biogas Market, you can kind of see what's in use and the potential. So realistically, you can see, there's a lot of untapped potential here. And like I said, looking at the feedstock potential, that is a lot of waste per year and looking at the wastewater per day. So, we never really see an issue of running low on that type of stuff. And then looking at Missouri, again, you can see the, what's in use today, what is some of the potential, but also, as policymakers, when they get, say, a bill or some type of funding contract put on their desk, are they really going to look at it until they see the economic benefits? So looking at some of that, you see all the capital investments that go into building these biogas systems, and then also the new jobs that it does create. As you can see, it's almost 10,000 jobs in the construction industry, and then 641 jobs in operation and maintenance. And also looking at energy production. And realistically, these numbers aren't completely obtainable because, we're not going to have a biogas system every quarter of a mile spread around Missouri. But these are some pretty impressive numbers. And if you can, take some of these on and reduce, your emissions from coal and other dirty fossil fuels. You can really reduce a lot of the pollution coming from energy production in the state. Yep, and also, so looking at it kind of on another environmental level, you can see how much, if you replaced what biogas does for the environment and the atmosphere. So taking a look at these numbers, all the potential amount of biogas that you can produce, you can remove, close to 3 million cars off the roads, and also a lot of acres in afforestation and stuff like that. And as you can see, how much it does recycle in just waste that would be basically stored somewhere else and kind of locked away, but it always takes up space. And one thing that we do want to note is just how, on a small scale level, especially for farmers, because like we said, we did kind of hit on livestock a little bit more and agriculture in general. Farmers do kind of struggle in today's world because of, huge farms and, so to try to make this operation look a little bit more attractive to them, we did notice that there are really a lot of ways that farmers are benefited by these, because you're saving energy on, you're not having to pay for all your energy because you're making energy, and then your excess energy is put out to the grid, so you're being paid back for it. And then also you have this nutrient-rich fertilizer that you're producing daily, so you can sell your byproduct, which is a very attractive thing, especially when it's just waste. You didn't have to pay for it in any way. It just kind of accumulates. And then also with the waste management problems in this country, we did see an opportunity where you would be honestly being paid to take on waste and put it into your anaerobic digesters. So you'd be creating more energy, creating more of your byproduct, and still making money from acquiring waste. So realistically, it's very beneficial for a lot of, especially for the people who own the systems and are running them all the time.
All right. Can you all hear me all right?
Yep.
Yeah, I can.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So natural gas, we want to get into the financials here momentarily. However, I do also want to clarify that natural gas is one of the cleaner kind of fossil fuels that we look at. And the renewable natural gas that we are able to produce through these biogas systems are able to be piped directly into existing natural gas pipelines, which is truly one of the more attractive non-financial aspects of all of this that we all keep getting excited about. We were sitting preparing for this presentation and we were all just goo-goo guying over how cool renewable natural gas is. And one of the really cool things, in my opinion, is that it uses existing infrastructure. And it can be this kind of intermediary technology, or not even a new technology. We have the existing technology, but it can be this intermediary power source until we truly get into the classical, I guess, renewable sources of solar and wind and potentially nuclear. But we also have the financials to go over. It typically costs somewhere in the scale of $250,000 to install an anaerobic digester, given the annual profits, the operating costs, and then a few napkin sketches and figures later. It takes between 5 to 6 years, based on our estimations, to pay off these anaerobic digesters. The studies we looked at, one claimed 3 to 7 years, and then the other study claimed 12 years. So it really just depends. Every situation's unique. It's going to depend truly how many heads of cattle you have, how many swine you're operating with. We saw some kind of threshold numbers that were thrown out there. I believe it was an Austrian paper that threw out the numbers. If you have 500 cattle or 5,000 swine, then that's kind of a good threshold. You know you're going to have enough manure production to be able to keep your anaerobic digester throughput working at capacity and able to continue its own operation and production. I actually believe it was Patrick Surface that told us that those 500 or 5,000 numbers. I think in the interview we did with him, that's when I heard that. However, this is a dynamic system. We read studies about farms that would bring in food scraps from the local restaurants, and I forget what the exact term was, but they would add those into their mix, into their slurry, and it helped create a better, faster working system. So each system is going to be very different, and quantifying each system is fairly difficult, which is also part of what the American Biogas Council does, is they will help consult with individual soon-to-be anaerobic digester owners, hopefully, and just see if they have a working situation. But let's go ahead and move over to a conclusion. I will toss it to Adam.
So there is a lot of potential in Missouri for these biogas systems. I think there was a big focus on agriculture systems and wastewater. However, I think we can overcome the obstacles with the help of the American Biogas Council with permitting and getting through all the red tape with that. But there still needs to be some research developments to increase that efficiency and to kind of lower down the cost of these systems. I think the main benefits that come out of these are that they use waste because the emissions are already being emitted. We're just making sure that it's utilized to cut down on our emission usage and as well make a profit for these farmers. It produces a cleaner energy than its substitute. It was calculated that the biogas systems, if we reached our potential, could supplement over or up to 20% of our current natural gas supply. And these systems are more reliable as well. They can operate 23 hours a day, every day of the week, just need to be shut down for maintenance and cleaning to make sure they're running efficiently. And they also offer cheaper energy prices for customers. And I think with the favoritism towards wind and solar, a lot of the problems, or at least one of the biggest problems that we had seen in doing our research, was that it's not necessarily as profitable as natural gas. But Patrick Surface had mentioned this, and I'd seen a little bit with this as I was looking into biogas systems in like Austria and Germany and Sweden, that with grants and subsidies such as feed-in tariffs, that can be rebalanced. But yeah, overall, I think this would be very impactful for the environment and a good energy source. And this is our references. And we don't have a question slide, but we will be taking questions now.